I traveled from Casablanca by road to Tenjin Port just to see what is happening on the agricultural side, on both sides of the road. And I was impressed. And I looked at the factories where they're exporting cars, everything. It's a good work. And I agree entirely with what you said here. But I think a lot is happening in Africa. There's not more to do with intertrade in Africa. We'll go a long way in helping us in what we're doing. But today I'm speaking at physical discipline. And I think it's a very straightforward thing. Physical discipline or physical indiscipline, because we have more physical indiscipline in Africa than we have physical discipline. It just is what you can call a state of expenditure and revenue. How to manage the expenditure and revenue to ensure that it is utilized in a way that it brings proper productivity. Over the years in Africa, we faced physical indiscipline, where people who are supposed to, because when we look at the revenue, no nation, nowhere in the world, they have enough revenue. All the celebrated countries in the world, today, the biggest economy in the world is the United States. They are owing almost 100% of their GDP, which means they don't have enough. Second biggest economy is China, which we celebrate. They are owing over 60% of their GDP. The third is Japan. They are owing 230% of their GDP. Of course, India and Germany are valuing with no owing. Smaller nations like Singapore that is celebrated is owing over 120-something% of its GDP. Africa is not like that. We are not owing as much as that to our GDPs. So why is our own problem? Because of not having what I talk about, the physical discipline. It is not about, if you have proper physical discipline, it is about managing your resources effectively, whether they are revenues that we generated, which often in Africa is low, and investing it properly to be able to produce what is required. In Africa, over the years, there has been total mismanagement of resources. So you can call physical indiscipline. And what does it lead to? It leads to a high level of debts that are not serviceable, which is what Africa is doing now. Leads to greater unemployment and further inflation, because you go into printing money, bringing excess liquidity in the system and everything, and you cause inflation and drive away investments. So physical discipline is very important. In countries like Bangladesh, I don't used to compare ourselves with, say, countries like America. In Bangladesh, they have, because the physical discipline drives you to have a physical policy. In countries like Bangladesh, they're targeted to be a mid-income country by 2021. Said this years back. And to invest and start pulling people properly and start pulling people out of poverty. The more you pull people out of poverty by managing your resources more effectively, the more you do. The consequence is that if you look at most of the Asian countries, we talked about MDG now, they adopted MDG, which they signed in the year 2000, and by the year 2015, managing their resources effectively, countries like China were able to pull 439 million people out of poverty. India was able to pull 276 out of poverty. Vietnam, 50-something million. Bangladesh. But in Africa, the reverse was the case. Because of fiscal indiscipline. They threw more people into poverty because the resources were, instead of investing in production, it was invested in consumption. So all the resources, including borrowed resources, were not invested in education, was not invested in health, was not invested. It's not I'm just saying that for you. That's it. And one week, and people call people for banquet. So that's when people say, we've been here for 2 years. Not end of the year party. What is that? Well, people say, I don't agree with you. But why don't you call people friendly? Look, everything has to be questioned. We want to know why are you spending, why are you going from here to here? People want you to travel to Abuja with 30 people when you're the only one invited for a meeting. Why should you do that? People, again, they create a nuisance to everybody. But that is. So when we talk about fiscal discipline, people think it's something foreign. No, it's not. It's just that the president of Nigeria, president of Kenya, president of America, can afford to take off from here with 5 persons to attend the United Nations conference for 2 days and go back. Because he doesn't have the country or money to pay for hotel for 2 weeks. And then for someone to go from one country to another, to another, to another. Hey, wait a minute. People are getting this bill. And when he carries the plane, nobody knows. When the plane land and park, then Mr. Knows they're paying airport fee, they're paying this, they're paying that. If you check the cost of that travel, I can always say to people, if you check the cost of just the plane traveling maybe from Lagos to somewhere, it was into thousands of dollars. So, talking about physical discipline is something that is within us. It's like us managing our own resources more efficiently. So that is, for me, it helps in conclusion. Physical discipline has the economics, microeconomic stability, which involve trust investment. Because we now manage the revenue more efficiently, it becomes productive, your exchange rate becomes more stable, inflation is contained, you invest in critical areas, health, education, pulling people out of poverty, people investment are attracted, like what they're doing in Morocco. It's not because it's there, because I was there, I went to see it. The other way around, you did the opposite. You create problems everywhere. Unemployment, everything rises and everything. So Africa needs to manage its resources more efficiently. Just South Africa, like Nigeria, where there's huge unemployment, people there productive aid doing nothing. You need to manage every resources more efficiently. Steady borrowing, now we borrow money. All these things I was talking about, we're doing, buying vehicles, and for borrowing money. So we borrow money to do all these things and everything. So every state, so when I became governor, and we said we didn't borrow for 8 years. No, we were really state and never borrowed for 8 years. Not one day. Because when people come and say, borrowing is not the one with government. But you must borrow for investment. That is why today the debt of Singapore is not a problem. Because the 120% money they borrow is an investment. They are building by 2060 one of the biggest ports, which will be under the sea. That's what they are borrowing money to do now, because they have no land. So they found that they can go under the sea and create a port. That's what they are trying to do now, because that's where they can find land. So if you borrow to do that, you earn more money. In our place, they borrow to finance the office of First Lady. Now the problem, at the end of the day, because there's no return on that investment. Because investment was having return. Chinese is owing. Japan is owing. So we need to manage our resources in an organized manner called fiscal discipline. Have a fiscal policy and fiscal responsibility that will help us to ensure that all our mega resources are put in the right use in everything in order to help us invest in critical areas of development, which is health, education. People in the world living in sub-Saharan Africa. You now have 70% of out-of-school children living in Sub-Saharan Africa. Our educational level of poverty, crisis. We talk about crisis now. Social cohesion, everything God wants in Africa because of physical indiscipline, not using your resources as effectively as you use. Which is, when we talk about physical discipline, it is critical even to remind the more people that becomes productive, the more you generate from taxes. And it's as simple as that. So you need to pay in that taxation is a bank account. You need to pay in something first, which is educating, investing in your people, investing in the system, then you can tax. And then so you have the physical discipline will allow you to do that initial investment. It's like somebody who is saving. That thing you're putting in is like saving. You invest in education. You invest in this. It is critical. And how we start that today is still relevant today by cutting the cost of governance. The cost of governance in Africa is totally understandable. You can't have people. Just straightforward example, for example. One state in America, the biggest state I would say, is California. In 2023, GDP of California is estimated to be about 3.9 trillion, call it 4 trillion. GDP of Kenya and Nigeria put together is about $800 million. So California is 5 times bigger in terms of GDP than these two countries put together. But I can tell you, what it costs to keep a governor for a regional head in any of this country is actually more expensive than what it costs to keep the governor of California. Talk about their presidents. If anybody sees the governor of California with 5 cars for it, you will reach his office that day before he's removed. I can assure you of that. So these are things you have to look at. And people say to you, oh, it was not necessary. It was necessary. The young man said, I said, the other price they cost are really cost. I said to African countries, so people say, oh, the people are influencing us from outside. I said, no. The people like he said about the governor, nobody, the young man had the opportunity to turn things around. What he did was to cut costs. What he did to say no to things and the waste. They don't have those things. In my country, every government has a house in Abuja called Governor's Lodge. In America, there's no house there. So when I was governor, they want my wife to have an office where it's about physical discipline and physical discipline, you thought it's something great. It's little things that were happening in government. People come, maybe those that comes as the minister, he came and saw me several times. I would have thought, have a dinner for him, have a banquet, and I said, hey, what are you doing? Where are we going to get this money to do this? Every of this dinner we do is cost of block, school block. In beautiful dinner for him. It's not a beautiful dinner for him. That's it. And 1 week, and people call people for banquet. So when I was going, people say, we've been here for 2 years. Not end of the year party. What is that? Well, people say, I don't agree with you. But why don't you call people friendly? Already get that. Because everything has to be questioned. We want to know why are you spending, why are you going from here to here? People want you to travel to Abuja with 30 people when you're the only one invited for a meeting. Why should you do that? People, again, they create a nuisance to everybody. But that is, so when we talk about physical discipline, people think it's something foreign. No, it's not. It's just that the president of Nigeria, president of Kenya, president of everybody, can afford to take off from here with 5 persons to attend the United Nations conference for 2 days and go back will be brain game to Africa. The changes you're seeing in Asia today, from China to India to Vietnam, were driven and by the people who left when things were bad. I met a lot of them in school. While I was in school, whether it's in Oxford, Cambridge, Kellogg, I met a lot of Indians and everything. When things became good, they went back. All you need to bring everybody back, and we are so fortunate. There's no continent that has the future of Africa. Africa is the richest continent in this world. Africa have known the vast mineral deposits of Africa. Can be imagined. Congo alone have over 24 trillion worth of minerals. And so as countries like Nigeria, Africa have the highest number of youth in their productive age. Africa today has 60% of their land all cultivated. No other continent has that. So Africa is just a name for good governance. For example, in Nigeria, I say it every day, Nigeria doesn't need anybody to come and help them. We don't need any donor. We can feed ourselves. And it's simple to compare what is happening in Africa and other countries. You will see it. A country like Vietnam compared with Nigeria, Vietnam have about 330,000 square kilometers of land with about 100 million people. So they have a third of Nigerian land. We are now 136,000 square kilometers. So they have a third of our land, half of our, about 100 million. Their total export is about $500 billion. Ours is about 50. It's not acceptable. We can produce more, we can do more. All we need is the right leadership. So don't worry, the other people who are going, they will find home once they have the right leadership to turn it around. There's so many states in Nigeria. The most troublesome state in Nigeria we have today is Borno State. And we have an area what they call Sambisa Forest area. That Sambisa Forest area is about 60,000 square kilometers. 60,000. That's 3 times the size of Israel. Israel is 22,000 times 366. So it's 3 times. So if you decide to turn it around, it's a farmland. That's what I told the man in Morocco, that I drove from Casablanca to Tajin port. On both sides is agriculture. That is a farmland. It cannot be a threat to you. It's life leadership. Turn it around, and that's it. And I can go on and on and show you examples. The examples abound everywhere. So it's not a problem. I'm not afraid. Nobody knows where there's a war. If they put fire here, all of us run away. Because you cannot stay where there's no hope, there's no employment. The job of government is to create, is like going to church. You can't go to church if they say there's no heaven. You have to, faith is driven by hope. Hope that I'm going to go somewhere. So nobody stays where there's no hope. If there's hope, people will stay. But when there's a sense of hopelessness, everybody looks for the next door. So that is it for question number 1, which I think is question number 2 is the issue of youth holding people. In what you said about South Africa, for me, it's not a, you see, again, these are what we are trying to do. I'm sure Star is trying to do the same, is to make the youth to understand that they are the ones. What these people are doing will take his revenge on them. So if, for example, somebody has paid $800,000 for money belonging to government, they should be the ones to be said, no, we disagree. We did everything. It is not easy. What they've done in Nigeria is that we have millions of people who have driven so much into poverty that they have even lost a sense of knowing that this is right or wrong. For example, if you go to the north, I was in the north and I went to work with people who are doctors, lawyers, and everything. Because of lack of education, exposure, they don't even know how to demand their rights. It's to make the youth to understand that they are the ones. What these people are doing will take his revenge on them. So if, for example, somebody has paid $800,000 for money belonging to government, they should be the ones to be said, no, we disagree. We did everything. It is not easy. What they've done in Nigeria is that we have millions of people who have driven so much into poverty that they have even lost a sense of knowing that this is right or wrong. For example, if you go to the north, I was in the north and I went to work with people who are doctors, lawyers, and everything. Because of lack of education, exposure, they don't even know how to demand their rights. But it's coming up gradually. That's what you saw in the last election. It's a gradual rebellion. The rebelling now saying, no, we can't continue this way. And it won't be too long before you've seen such things in Africa. And I'll show you, it will definitely happen. On issue of regional and talking about regional and all that. And the blocks of China and blocks of US, I don't think they are a problem. We are looking for the problem outside the US. No, I've said it. China is not our problem. America is not our problem. Our problem is us. Simple. If you have a leader who means well and is productive, and I say it every day, Nigerian man complains where President gets up in the morning and says, some people are manipulating the dollar. Some people are doing it, that's nonsense talk. Or some people, or we don't have availability dollar. There's only one way to stabilize your currency, by building your reserve. And there's only one way to build your reserve, by exporting your products. You have oil, You're not even meeting up your quota, which will allow you to export more and earn more dollars. And I can, because there's no time, show you how Nigeria in a month, how much we are losing from those who are stealing our oil. You're not even doing it. So what you should do is not complain, is to invest more in export. The world is looking for what to buy. We have the vast land. You're not cultivating it. So you have inflation problem because you can't even feed your people. A state like Niger State is 76.3 thousand square kilometers of land. They can't feed themselves. They don't have anything. Netherlands, without water, is at 3,000 square. So Niger State is 2.5 times Netherlands. The agricultural export in 2022 is $120 billion. They can't even do it. You can even do an example from Kenya. You know, Kenya here earns a lot of money from export of flour. Nearly over $500 million. Ethiopia does about over $1 billion of tea, of coffee. Sri Lanka over $2 billion of tea. We have a state in Nigeria, Taraba, 54.4 thousand square kilometers. In Mambila Hills, with the same vegetation that can do tea, coffee, and everything, they are coming to Abuja to share money. So I can tell you, it's just people who don't want to face the reality. It's either you walk up your sleeves and walk. You can just roll your sleeves and say, see this place, we're not going to have it. We're going to shut down everything. I did it that the governor quarreled with everybody, like those I was telling you. We don't need people brain salary. If those who can afford it, you clear for them, they pass. But you must not do it. We didn't. We said we don't have the money to do it. This we cannot do, this we cannot do, this we cannot do. We quarrel with everybody. I just showed somebody yesterday, Dora Akunyan's book, because I was involved. You are reading page 258, where he was telling the daughter why people hate Peter Obi. Because he said Peter Obi is working, so why people hate him? He said, you see, these things he's doing is money people have chopped. So they're not chopping him, and they hate him. So you just have to roll your sleeve and say, listen, governance is not about waste. We have to do the right things. You're going to annoy people, like you talked about change. When you bring change, you have for enemy all those who live off the old order. Because they will resist it. But if you continue, you find out that more people will believe in you. Thank you.
Round of applause, please. I don't know if we can take some more responses. Or I can.